Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to some disc golf footage here at the Groundhog Grappler Round 1 Back 11. There's a bit of a mistake. I did 8 holes for the front, or what was supposed to be the front 9, but I think it kind of flows better this way, so we'll just kick with it. Here we are, hole 14, par 4, 764 feet. Last year we saw Calvin get here in 2 shots with a tap-in birdie, so we got an OB left over that fence and an OB right in the backyard of the neighborhood here. So you kind of just want to power it straight down the fairway as you do most of the time, but just a little bit of navigating to get through these trees. Hopefully our pros get an easier time to get through those trees than the drone did. Speaking of Calvin, he is up first. Throwing a blue rimmed disc with a white middle. Kind of lost it here. But as you can see, coming down right there in the middle of the fairway. A little bit short of that power pole, which is about 450 feet down. Chad throwing his Helio Scorpius. Way too much turn on this one. Thankfully, fighting back inbounds. There you see those flags over on the right-hand side. That denotes the painted line, or the OB line, excuse me. Josh Coghill. Playing that wind perfectly, pushing this one straight down the fairway. And that should be over by where Calvin landed. Maybe a little bit further. Huge thank you to JT Plumbing for sponsoring this hole and helping support this tournament. Kyle Gray. Nice flip up here. Following the line Josh Coghill showed us. And ended up further in the middle than on the left side. You would prefer to be more to the left or the right. It opens up the line better than being in the middle. Christian Camp here. Really putting some power on this one. He'll end up in a good spot there on that left-hand side. Speaking of which, he's apparently up first. Putting a little bit too much height on this one, it looks like. And he'll end up a little bit short there, outside the circle for the birdie look.
Okay. Makes sense with the camera too.
Kyle lining up this Firebird. Not wide enough. Getting a favorable skip, but he'll still be outside the circle. Here we've got Chad. Nice low line here out of Chad. Going that right side. Not getting enough skip, though. Really strange reaction off the ground. Usually you can rely on the skip pretty easily. Here we get to Josh Coghill. Out here repping 1010 discs. Oh, beautiful forehand. Coming up a little bit short, being caught by one of those guardian bushes. And finally, we get to Calvin's drive. Nice looking forehand, maybe a little too high. No, just perfect. Inside the circle, probably maybe 25 or so feet. Maybe shorter than that. Here we got Christian well outside the circle. And just a little too low. Well, not just a little too low, very low out of the hand. Kyle Gray making a good correction. Unfortunately, not committing quite enough on the distance. Chad from just inside the circle. Putting with his R Pro Rhinos as usual. Ooh, nice left side catch there. Get in the birdie. Josh Coghill a few feet closer. Nice soft bid there. Wouldn't have gone long if it missed, but nice dead center hit. Kyle cleaning up that par. Christian to do the same. Oh no. Christian really struggling to keep it together on the putting green today. Definitely a bit frustrated with that effort. Calvin with his great look at the birdie. Also cashed in that three birdies on the day, and you just saw all three of them on the lead card. And Christian cleaning up that unfortunate bogey. And here we find ourselves at the beginning of what is ubiquitously known, amorously, ironically known as Birdie Bay, here at hole 15, par 3, 316 feet. Starting off, we have this OB right there, right behind the basket. We've got an OB fence on the right, which really doesn't come into play unless you're really, really bad, like me. But most of our players probably going to throw this hyzer shot here. And you're kind of looking to just get around those trees or hyzer right there. Calvin looks like he landed in a pretty good spot. This is a really dangerous putt to run. Also, huge shout out to my boy Sean Trapp, sponsoring this hole. Somebody doing some construction work at their house. Really inconvenient timing, unfortunately. I think that Raz Chad just a little bit, pulls that one a bit to the right, but that should be safe and have a look at the basket, assuming it didn't skitter along that ground into the water. Josh using the height on this to keep the distance in check. Kind of hard to follow where that one ended up, to be honest with you, so I'm not sure how good or bad that was. Kind of lost it in the sky there. This one looking nice. Oh, an unfortunate kick there. Maybe a fortunate kick, to be honest. If he didn't hit that tree, where would he have ended up? Christian really showing us how to dissect this hole. Absolute tap in right there. Calvin not wanting any trouble with that OB water. Just opting to lay it up. Kyle using the height, using the glide of the disc. Chad just barely inside the circle, looks like. Nice dead center putt there. Josh from also just barely inside the circle. There you see him standing on the painted line. Definitely taking his time with this scary death putt. Doesn't need to, though. He's got it all day. Christian tapping in that beautiful birdie. And Calvin, unfortunately, the only par on the card. Here we are, hole 16, par 3, 204 feet, which doesn't seem quite right to me, but I'm just a lowly am with a very noodly arm, so what do I know? You've got this OB water all around, and it kind of comes to a point here at the basket. There is an old peninsula location, or pin location, excuse me, that unfortunately is no longer used, or maybe fortunately. Chad throwing a nice turnover backhand here, or force over backhand. Really not a super long hole. It's more touchy, really, with the OB being everywhere. If you go high-speed driver, you have the risk of skipping out of bounds. Most of our players probably opting for something like a zone or a Toro, maybe even a Firebird, and just hold it out wide. I know Kyle is fond of his Firebird. He's lost plenty over here on the left side. And really showing us how it's done here. Or maybe not. I have no idea where that went, to be honest with you. So we'll have to see where he ended up. I don't think it was out of bounds, but I could be wrong. Christian putting a lot of swoop on this one. And being rewarded with a great shot. Should be inside the circle there. Calvin lining up this, looks like a Toro to me. Looks like a nice soft forehand here. At least it looks soft. That was so smooth. Looks like a great shot. Here we see Chad outside the circle, probably about 45, 50 feet. Oh, trying to drain that one, and unfortunately drains it into the water. Christian not able to get it together, not getting any love from these baskets. Even on a good putt like that, doesn't go in. Josh is just unstoppable. 9 down so far. Calvin ended up inside the circle. Pretty good look at the basket here. Leaving that one way too wide, unfortunately. It looks like Kyle did end up being out of bounds, so this is for par. Which he connects on nicely. Hopefully he was able to get his disc back. Calvin making good on that par save. Chad for his... Let me see, that was for birdie. Par. For bogey here. Oh, just too far to the right. Not able to make the save on that, unfortunately. Carding the double bogey. And we arrive at what would normally be the final hole, hole 17, par 3, 268 feet. There we see, I believe that's Chris Duell out there searching for disc. Could be somebody else, but we'll see. But a pretty straightforward hole. OB water here. If you land short, you end up in a drop zone, which is very unforgiving, probably about 120 or so feet from the basket. Josh Coghill up first. Going for the very common Spike Heiser play. Controls the distance and usually lands you in a great spot. There he will end up just inside the circle left. Kyle opting for the forehand. Definitely a more aggressive line into closer to the basket if you do it right. Unfortunately, not getting quite enough skip. It should be a pretty easy birdie for him, but you'd ideally like to be under the basket. Let's be real. You don't want to putt. You want to be able to tap it in.
Water skip, come on.
Christian, unfortunately, leaving that one really short. It did touch inbounds, as they're saying. There is no OB line, so if it touches land, that is counted as inbounds. Calvin trusting this one out super wide, super high. Almost doinking it right into the basket. Kyle in the background saying, I don't know if that would have stayed. That thing had some zip on it. Chad ending up just outside the circle, up against that fence, though. Pretty unfortunate footing from there. Christian to save the par from here. You see his disc just floating right there. Oh, unfortunately, not committed enough on that one. Chad nice and committed on that putt. If that didn't go in the basket, that was going to go way long. Great accuracy displayed there. A lot of geese around here, as you can clearly hear. Josh, nice lofty putt there. Almost too high, almost hitting the band, but still going in, cashing in that birdie. Calvin making good on that birdie putt as well. Second verse, same as the first. Kyle repeating. Birdie, 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 birdie. And unfortunately, Christian leaving us with the bogey. And finally, we arrive at hole 1, par 3, 361 feet. This one is in the pretty deep par 3 position, so we've got this OB road here on the right-hand side. So this is not the pin location. The pin location is much further down the way. Josh Coghill, show us how it's done. Nice flat hyzer, nice and stable. Nice skip. That is how it is done. Kyle Gray probably opting to throw a higher line here. At least in my experience, that tends to be what he does. Or he's just going to blast it nice and straight down the fairway. Pretty decent skip there. Hopefully it doesn't skip too far to the left. But really, as long as you put yourself in a position to have a look at the two, you're going to be pretty happy. Calvin, all the power. Unfortunately, not getting quite the right line on that one. Definitely frustrated with himself, as you can hopefully tell. Chad going his beautiful ace run here.
Oh, that was behind me.
Ooh, that was a pretty good line. Also, huge shout out to my friends at Disc and That, Andy. Thank you for sponsoring this hole, and thank you for supporting this tournament. Check them out up in Starkville. Oh, Christian making the same mistake Calvin did. Lots of power. Had the distance, but it just did not have the width on that one. So they ended up going out pretty early here. Calvin throwing his Toro. Looks like he left that one a little bit shorter than what he would like. Christian doing the same. Nice little mini throw there. Uncalled practice throw. Here we see where Christian and Calvin both landed. Christian a little further out than Calvin, but making good on the bogey save. Let's see if Calvin can follow suit. Oh, it was a good putt. It just didn't want to stick on that slight left side. Maybe it skipped off the cage a little bit, but that seemed in the entire way to me. What do I know? Chad from just inside the circle. Oh, too left side on that one. In a good position for the two, just wasn't able to capitalize on it. There we see where Kyle landed. A little bit of a lean out situation, but makes good on the putt either way. You see where Josh landed. Beautiful throw. Excuse me. Throw. I was trying to say... Oh my gosh, I can't talk. I was trying to... Making good on the birdie. I was trying to say throw and shot at the same time, and it just wasn't coming out right. And I did it like 3 times in a row there. Let me untangle my tongue here for just a second. Chad cleaning up the par. And there we see the lone Calvin. Unfortunately, going to have to clean up the bogey. Or, excuse me, double bogey. My apologies. Nice and dead center cleanup anyway. And on to hole 2, par 4, 560 feet. It's going to look quite a bit different from what it looks like right now. Unfortunately, as you will come to find, we have lost a lot of trees due to the drought and the pine beetle infestation. So this, what was once the most difficult hole on the course, is now going to play probably still pretty difficult, but definitely a lot less double and triple bogeys on the average scorecard. So this is the short position right here where the drone is landing. We are much further out. We're just past all of these trees out into this back field. And here you see the unfortunate change that we are having to endure. Having lost all of these trees. Thankfully not all of them. Still some teeth to this hole. But you're not likely to hit first available off the tee anymore. Josh parked the short position. Beautiful placement shot there. The further to the right you can get, honestly, if you throw a forehand and just end up OB over this, oh, by the way, the road on the right-hand side, OB. If you end up over the road, OB, you will have an easy up and down to get the par. Kyle following a similar line to Josh, unfortunately getting a straight back kick instead of a left kick.
I'm okay.
And also on the left-hand side, all these trees, that is OB due to the dangerous footing that it poses.
Be gentle.
Chad, unfortunately, getting a huge left skip. Really wanted to go just straight forward, and that looked like it was the right line. I don't know what kind of ground reaction that was to get him to the left. Christian here, showing us how it's done, throwing straight down that tiny, tiny gap. He'll be in the best position though so far. I was trying to say though, thus, and so, and it came out as though. That didn't work. I recommend enunciating your words when you talk. It really helps with communication. Calvin turning this over.
That's a fine spot.
It is a fine spot. It's definitely not what he was trying to accomplish. But I think it'll work out either way. Kyle lining up this really risky gap. And, ooh, really, really early kick will put him out of bounds, and lots of work left to do for the bogey, unless he can throw it in. Calvin really inside. Not in a good position to get the birdie. It will be a look for sure. Chad thankfully not kicking so far to the left that he's out of bounds. Great looking shot here. Just unfortunately hitting a tree right behind that one on our line of sight that you can't see. Here we see where Kyle went out of bounds, line up this turnover forehand, or force over forehand, excuse me. Definitely tried to ring that one up for par. He will have a pretty easy bogey from there. Josh really cut off, opting for this huge force over forehand. Lots of angle out of his hand, you can see. And that looked phenomenal. And he will end up with a tap-in birdie. Christian landed in a great spot right here, just to the gap of the mouth. Way too much angle on this one. That will cut early. He'll be in a position to get the birdie or an easy par. Definitely not what he wants. He definitely wants an easy birdie, considering his position on the scorecard. Calvin leaving himself really short on this approach. Just kind of threw it too low. Maybe there's a little bit of a wind, but I don't think so. I think that just may have been an unforced error. Chad, easy up and down there for that. Should have an easy 4. Here we see Christian outside the circle for birdie. Just a little low out of his hand on that one. Good line. A bit left, so it probably wouldn't have stuck if it was high enough. Calvin too short for the par save. He'll have a tap-in 5. Oh. Definitely an unforced error there for Chad. Gonna leave us with the bogey. Kyle cleaning up the bogey himself. Christian taking his time, cleaning up the par. Josh with the absolute tap-in birdie. Only 2 birdies on the day. Josh Coghill and Mason McKay. On to hole 3, par 3, 272 feet. So this drone is going to be going to the long par 3 position, but we're going to be a little bit shorter. Definitely a much more attackable hole. So we are over on the left-hand side. You can kind of see the pole sticking out of the ground. There's the wreck or am basket. Another pin location right there. And this is the super long par 3, which we're not going to be playing, so never fear. Once again, thank you to Sean Trapp for sponsoring this hole. Huge supporter of local disc golf, both here and in Louisiana, his home state. If you're ever in the area and you need some realtor advice or real estate advice, hit him up. Josh showing us how it's done. Put himself inside the circle, just getting to the right of that tree. This tree is thus far unaffected by the cutting, although we will be losing a lot of these trees due to the pine beetles. Christian put so much height, so much hyzer on this, and it's still flipped all the way over. Unfortunately, connecting with that last little guardian tree. Putting him very much out of position. Kyle Gray looks like he's lining up the MD3. Nice straight shot here. Puts himself, I think, just outside the circle. Looks like Chad threw his Mako 3. Whoa. Nice little glancing blow there. Kicking him more toward the basket, more straight. This looks like a Toro from Calvin. Nice line there. Should put him in a good spot for the 2. Christian from deep circle 2, maybe circle 3 here. Easy 3 from there. Cal having to straddle out around these little pencil trees. Still a good look at the 2, though. Oh, and just not committing enough on that one. Never high enough to make it in the basket. This was a CTP hole for a couple of the other divisions. As you can see, those flags and the little pads of paper there. Calvin also kind of caught up in these shrubs, has a little bit of a straddle putt here. Can't quite get enough footing to go staggered. Still making good on the 2, though, so it doesn't matter. Kyle to clean up his 3. And he does so nicely. Nice left side catch. Josh proving that he's human. Finally makes a mistake. We'll have a tap-in par. Very uncharacteristic error there. Chad cleaning up the birdie. Not quite catching the disc. Calvin cleaning up his 3 as well. Almost at 4. That'd be very unfortunate. Thankfully not a bogey, but a par. And Josh does the same. He is human. Here we are on hole Z, par 3, 163 feet. This is an additional hole, so we've got I believe 19 holes here total. This hole sponsored by Jonathan Austin Vertucci, better known as the father of Gio. Chad, given that a nice ace run, a nice short hole like this, you could feasibly jump putt it, but definitely has some teeth. This plays as an island outside of the circle, painted circle. It is a hazard, which unfortunately is where Calvin ends up. Not quite trusting the disc on that one, I would say. Or maybe trusting it too much. I mean, putting that much angle on it. Josh throwing this really wide. And I think that stays in bounds, being caught by that last little tree. Giving it a bit of an ace run. Christian throwing nice and wide. Oh, just short of the ace. Kyle, nice. I was going to say nice line, but that was much shorter than I thought it would be. Calvin from deep circle 2 to save the 3. There is no drop zone. This is just played as a hazard, so you land short, you take an extra stroke. Giving that one a nice run. Very committed. Just a little too high, it looks like. Oh, Kyle making the same mistake, just too much height. Josh, unfortunately, landing too long. The circle on this hole, not quite as wide as circle 1. And a little spotty in area, so a little oblong. Definitely a very touchy hole. Josh making the same mistake. Three of the same mistakes in a row. Calvin for his bogey. Definitely struggling to catch up. Cleaning that one up. Nice committed putt there. Love to see it. Josh once again proving that he is human. He is not a robot. He does make mistakes. Chad showing that he's still got it. Getting that birdie. Christian, unfortunately, inches off of the ace. And Kyle with the unfortunate bogey as well. Here we are, hole 4, par 3, 374 feet. This one is going to be in the straight position, I believe. So, no OB, aside from this road way behind the basket, which you'd really have to crush it out there to get it there. This pin location that we are currently seeing is the round 2 location, so not going to go there quite yet. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, this is the left position. So you want to get out here. Yeah, just follow Chad's disc. That's where you want to be. That's perfect right there. So nice cluster of pine trees over there to the left by the road. Road still OB, but doesn't come into play very often. Oh, and Christian just getting denied everywhere. Can't get lucky on the putting green, can't get lucky on the fairway. Hitting the one little dinky tree in the fairway. Definitely not having a good time today. Calvin looks like he's slowed it down on this one. And unfortunately catching one of the same trees that Christian did. Definitely not a very fair fairway. And Josh in a fantastic position. Oh, I lied. He apparently caught one of the last trees and rolled backwards. He'll have a look at the basket from deep circle 2. Ooh, very inside from Kyle. Kick towards the AM basket, so he'll have a tap in 2 on that position. Well, we missed it for some reason, but apparently Kyle already threw. Christian, nice touchy upshot here. All wrist forehand. Calvin, nice and committed there, just a little too high. And by little, I mean, 4 feet. No shade to Calvin. That's just that's a hard putt to make.
So bad.
Josh, a little upset with himself about that one. Here we finally get to Chad's drive in a fantastic spot. Phenomenal. And a good shot rewarded with a good putt, rewarded with the birdie. Here on hole 4, we had only 4 birdies on the day. Cody Munns, Chad Sherbert, Taylor Williams, and Mark Sandifer. Calvin cleaning up the the 3. I'm used to my score on this hole. Josh also cleaning up the 3. Kyle, after his upshot that we missed, cleaning up the 3 as well. And I suspect Christian shall do the same, as he does. And we get to hole 5, par 3, 374 feet. This one is going to be in this rightmost position. This long right position, I should say, excuse me. I think the drone's actually going there. Hey, yeah, look at that. Really touchy shot. OB fence all the way to the right. So if you go over the fence to the right-hand side, it is OB. OB road to the left, which shouldn't come into play on this position unless you're really bad like myself. Chad showing us the hyzer line here. Just barely over the fence there. That should be in a good position for the 2. Way too high for Christian. Getting punished very badly for it. A little bit of confusion on who's up. I don't have any advice on how to throw this hole. This position is just brutal. It's super, super hard. Whatever you think you can use to get there, use it. Calvin, way, way to the left, and then way, way to the right. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe a little bit of a wind on that one. I am not entirely sure, to be honest with you. Maybe a kick. Who knows? It was high enough. Force over Anheuser for Josh here. And that'll unfortunately be well short. Way out of position for the 2. Kyle, very early, very high. He will end up over by where Calvin ended up. Here we get to Christian. Unfortunately, not making it over the fence, which is usually the baseline for the par on this hole. Barely making it over the fence there and getting a nasty kick back to the fence. He is unfortunately still up. Looks like he put himself in a good position for the 4. Calvin fully commits to this shot. And that'll be just right behind the basket. Easy 3 from there. Kyle, honestly, not in a bad position. Easy 3 from there. Josh with a nice straight look at it. Oh, trying to bank shot it off of the tree. And Chad just coming up a little bit too far to the right. Definitely a good run. This hole played very difficult. 1 birdie on the day. Calvin cleaned up the par. That birdie, Cody Munns. Christian cleaning up that unfortunate bogey. Bad shot, bad shot. Good shot, good putt. Just the way it goes sometimes. The rest of our card cleaning up their pars before we move on to the last hole. And the final hole. Hole 6, par 3, 582 feet. This is probably one that nobody's going to birdie ever. I personally witnessed an ace on it. It was a 360 skip ace. But that was pretty unusual. That was Kyle Watson, by the way. Shout out to you, Kyle Watson. Not here, but here in spirit. So this is the par 4 position that we are currently headed to, but par 3, just a bit shorter than that. Huge thank you to the Natchez Disc Golf Club for sponsoring this hole. I'll be there later this year for the Bluff City Open. Chad throwing a smash out here. Should put himself in a good position to get up and down and maybe give it a run. Kyle, lots of hyzer on this one. Unfortunately, too much height for the hyzer and stalling out left. You see a little bit of a wind on this hole. Kyle, way too low for the stability of the disc. Cut rolling over to the left. In line with that pine tree. That's usually the distance marker. If you get past that, it's a good shot. If you don't get past that, not quite a good shot. Lots of angle on this one for Josh. Lots of height. And putting himself in a great position. Nice looking line out of Christian here. Not enough. No. Too much stability. Not quite getting enough glide on it to get down to the basket. Kyle up first, opting for the forehand Firebird once again, his go-to. Ooh, didn't trust this out wide enough, it looks like. And the result speaks for itself. Just inside the circle putt. A little bit cut off with those trees. Calvin ended up pin high just to the left. Easy up and down. Easy 3 from there. Christian from just a little bit closer. Wrong stability for this disc. That's a deep circle 2 there. That was Chad. Not giving me enough time to get set up. Putting himself in a good spot for the 3. And Josh not even trying to run it. Safe 3 from there. Maintain that huge lead that he's got. Oh, and just a little too low for Christian. He'll have a tap in 4. Kyle really having to straddle out around this tree. He's got to look at it, but it's a pretty narrow look. And just doinks the tree right in front of him. Calvin cleaning up the 3. Chad also pretty cut off from this with this tree in the way. But cleaning up the 3 nonetheless. And Kyle up again. Can he avoid the tree? Find out next week. Tapping in that 4. Josh letting Kyle pick up his disc, maintaining his lead of 5 strokes. And Christian, unfortunately, leaving us with a bogey. But that's not all he's leaving us with. A big smile. Love to have Christian on the card. He's such a good dude. Always a joy to see him. Always a joy to hang out with him. And always a joy to hang out with you guys as you watch some awesome disc golf. As you see Josh Coghill tear it up, 11 down, leading by 5 strokes. Mason McKay and Cody Munns tying for second at 6 down. Chad going solo 4th at 5, and Kyle solo 5th at 4 down. I'll see you guys for the round 2 of the Groundhog Grappler